This has been so fun. These bold prediction revisited segments are so fun. We got to get right back into the bag tonight. Some of you just absolutely crushed your bold predictions, and I doubted you. And for that, I'm here to apologize. This first one, right off the bat, like this is money. Listen to this. This is our buddy Dave Bartu at CFB Matrix. A great follow. I mean, a lot of coaching staffs use his resources. He said, I wouldn't say it's bold. I would, Dave. I made it a 9 on the boldness scale. He said, but 3 favorites in the preseason top 25 that will not be in the top 25 come season's end. Pitt, Cincy, and Ole Miss. He said none of them are going to finish top 25. Well, guess who finished outside the top 25? Pitt, Cincy, and Ole Miss. And I called this a 9 on the boldness scale. I think I said something along the lines of, I could see one of these happening, maybe even 2. But all 3 of them in the same season, I looked at Cincinnati and I thought they can afford to lose 2 games and they still won't finish outside the top 25. See, if he would have said top 10 or 15, I could have gotten on board with it. But I mean, you got 3 really good programs here, none of them in the top 25. And yet somehow it happened. So Dave nails his bold prediction. I mean, hats off, sir. That's well done. And he didn't pick 3 scrubs either. He picked the former ACC champ, Cincy coming off a college football playoff appearance, and Ole Miss had a good season last year, and at one point they were top 10 this year. So that's some crystal ball work for you right there. Next up, this one was bold too, but man, this one, for a little while, this one had some steam. Clark said there will be an SEC team not named Alabama or Georgia in the college football playoff this year. I called it an 8 on the boldness scale. It ended up not happening. The preseason Vegas odds would have led you to believe if it does happen, it'll be Texas A&M. Because look at that, A&M had the 3rd best odds to win the SEC. Who had the 4th best odds? Albeit very, very long, it was Tennessee at plus 4,000. Well, Tennessee ended up being that team. Now, Tennessee had to play both Alabama and Georgia. It's a tough scheduling break, but it's not a break because they have to do it every year. But they beat Alabama. And then they go to Athens, and it's just a tough draw to go into Athens and try and beat Georgia. So in the end, we had a team not named Alabama or Georgia in the SEC championship game. We did not have one in the playoff, though. We got 2 Big Ten teams in there. We only got 1 SEC team in there. Next up, this one was pretty intricate, too. I had to really read it like 3 times thrice. DJ said Utah will be the only Power 5 team to repeat as conference champ and make it to the college football playoff. I called this one a 6 because I had Utah making the playoff, so I was on board with it. I thought they'd win the Pac-12. They did. So that part at least came to fruition. They didn't make the playoff because they lost 3 games during the regular season, but I was confident in this. So think about what he's talking about. Last year's champs, only Utah is going to make it. Well, Pitt, I could see. I wasn't high on Pitt this year. Baylor, there were several teams that had better odds than Baylor. I thought Michigan, while they were going to be the 2nd best team in the Big Ten, I thought it was Ohio State's year in that conference. I can get on board with all that. I thought Bama was going to be the issue. Because Bama, remember how overwhelmingly they were favored coming into this year, and it's just, we whiffed. I whiffed on Bama. Vegas whiffed on Bama. Just a lot of us whiffed on Bama. So I thought Bama was going to get in your way. Because, see, they won the title last year, but they didn't win the SEC title. So if they won the SEC, hey, they were going to throw this prediction in the wood chipper. Bama wasn't the issue, as it turns out. Michigan was. Michigan repeats as a conference champ along with Utah. So that one's out. Close, very close, but no cigar. Next up, this one was a little more bold. Taco said there will be 0 undefeated teams at the end of the regular season. This hasn't happened since 2003. 0 undefeated teams. You got 131 of them. In various years you've had more or less, but you got like 130 some odd teams. None of them will be undefeated. Someone's going to be undefeated. That's what I thought. So I called this an 8.75 on the boldness scale. And we ended up with 2 undefeated teams. At the end of the regular season was the prediction. My IFB almost fell. That was the prediction. So not after the playoffs, but like right now. Georgia's undefeated, Michigan's undefeated, the end. But also, the last time this happened was all the way back when it comes to non-COVID years, in 2003. That was the last time we had no undefeated teams. I guess we could include the COVID year because we had like 8 of them undefeated that year. Last up, this was never going to happen. Bless the heart of whoever made this prediction, but this was never going to happen. Oh, Morgan. Oh, poor Morgan. Morgan said, the Every Given Saturday Tour will make a stop in Columbia, Missouri for 4-0 Missouri versus Georgia in Week 5. First off, let us reiterate the fact that Missouri was 2-2 at the time of this game. The weekend was pretty loaded. Jesse, do you have the screen? Do you have that like graphic where we know the games that were that weekend? I think I was at Kentucky, Ole Miss. I believe that's where I was. That was the same day NC State played Clemson. You had Bama at Arkansas that day. Oklahoma State at Baylor, Wake Forest at Florida State. So like we just weren't going to be at the Missouri game. But here's the irony. Missouri came as close as anyone has all year to beating Georgia. So unfortunately, they were 500 going into the game, which warranted us ignoring the game from an Every Given Saturday Tour perspective. But they just about beat Georgia. They led them, I think by 2 scores at one point in the fourth quarter. They led them. Eli Drinkwitz, how did you almost do that? And then the rest of the country, how did you not find a way to replicate that? That was a bad offensive line performance for Georgia that day. Suffice it to say they rectified things.
Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure to leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.